Could you actually change the reputation of agents, or are we just dodgy? Today, there was 10 auctions that I conducted, and all 10 properties have sold. Having said that, I want to let you know that 2 of the properties had sold prior. Hey, Zigzag, good to hear that I'm coming loud and clear. So that is 10 out of 10, 100%. And it does not surprise me because there is a lot of buyers who have pressed the buy button now. They were doing their due diligence, but now they've moved from due diligence and they're buying. And let me tell you that quite a few buyers said to me today, the reason that they bought today, and I speak to them when, the hammer goes down and we go inside, and if I've got time, I'll sort of have a bit chit-chat while they're signing the contract. I had 2 of them say to me today the reason that they bought is that they believe that they will have significantly more buyers to compete with after October, because some of the properties that I did today, actually a lot of the properties I did today, half the properties I did today were under the $1.5 million mark, which are the properties that actually qualify for the 5% first home buyers deposit guarantee, which means that you don't have to take out mortgage insurance. You still have to have the serviceability requirements met, which is make the loan repayments. But for many people, it's actually getting that deposit is the big issue. So I've got to say to you that there's also a group of vendors at the moment who are scheduled to be auctioned on the 27th of September. And a lot of those are actually contemplating now in delaying their auction till October with the view that they will actually have more people to bid on their property in October from October 1. Now, what do I think of that? I had someone ring me up today, ask me my advice about moving their auction from the 27th of September to the next weekend, which is, in New South Wales, by the way, is a long weekend. Hi, Cameron. And I probably would say that that's not necessarily the ideal time. It's the grand final weekend off the top of my head as well. Most likely what you would do is go the week after it, but quite frankly, I wouldn't be moving an auction from the 27th of September to October for the simple reason is that there's still a lot of buyers that have got enough money that they don't need the 5% deposit guarantee. They're going to be putting a 10 or 20%, and so they've got more money, and they'll be bidding before October. So to me, I would go to auction on the 27th of September, and then what I would do is if you couldn't get the price that you wanted as a vendor, you could treat it as a for sale in October. Right? You pass it in, you're not happy with the number, and you can sell it in October. That way you get the best of both worlds. So 10 out of 10, 100% is the number, and I also tell people one hot day doesn't make a summer. A lot of the times you get 100% because you had good properties, you had good operators who did not make errors in their auction practice, and when you have those 2 things coupled together and a little bit of luck, and obviously a good market, you get 100%. But today, someone asked me the simple question, do I believe that real estate agents will ever have a respectable reputation in the marketplace? Because when I got into real estate in 1988, 89, thereabouts, I've got to tell you, real estate agents weren't respected then. And then when you move on another 40 years, you'd say not much has changed. So I sat there thinking to myself, could you actually change the reputation of agents, or are we just dodgy? So what I thought to myself is, what are the reasons why real estate agents don't have a good reputation? Let me go through them. Number one is that it's an unequal experience, right? So if I want to go buy, if you hear me out, if I want to go buy like a phone from the Apple shop, I mean, I know what the experience is going to be like, right? If I were to, go off and book some travel. I know what needs to be done. But with real estate, there is just no uniform way. There's a lot of people that say, oh, how do I buy that property? Auction, for sale. Oh, is it by negotiation? How do you put an offer in? Some people actually take deposits. Some people take properties off the market. The bottom line is there is no one way. There's a lot of unequal experiences. And I've got to say to you that people have a bad reputation in real estate because of 5% of the bad apples give the other 95% a bad name, right? The second thing I'm going to tell you is the second reason why real estate agents are going to struggle is that the perception and reality are two different things. I've got to tell you, it's glitz versus grind. That's what it is. It's glitz versus grind. It's perception versus reality, right? The glitz is nice cars. The glitz is Mercedes-Benz, Maseratis, Range Rovers, the great reels on Instagram, nice watches, beautiful suits, right? That's the glitz. That's the perception. But let me tell you, that perception is one of the reasons that people in real estate have a bad name. But the real reality is that it's a grind. It's not the things that I just said. The real reality is that, I got to tell you, I didn't have a Saturday night for around 20 years of my life. And the reason why is when I was listing and selling real estate, I used to do my callbacks on a Saturday afternoon. Then I used to do my vendor callbacks on a Saturday afternoon. Then I used to actually get stuck into getting my reports done. So the truth is, like, my Saturday nights landed at home at around 8:30, and all I did is watch the second half of the second NRL game. That was my life in real estate, right? In addition to that, the grind is a lot of rejection. You don't see that. The grind is that you got a lot of people that actually don't answer their calls when you're actually prospecting or are actually telling you to F off. The real grind in real estate is that you're going home about 2 to 3 hours later than what the average person does on a weeknight in Australia. The real grind is that your phone rings up at all hours. The real grind is that, man, you got stress, you got anxiety, you have deals that fall through, you get your first cousin that gives their property not to you to sell but to another agent, so you get personalised rejection happening. You have so many things. And I've got to tell you, I've got to say to you that the perception and the reality are two different things. So it's more about grind than about glitz, I've got to tell you. The third reason why I think real estate people are going to struggle to actually get a good name in our industry is that we are involved in the pressure cooker time of people's lives. So what actually happens is people buying and selling real estate, particularly in the auction front where there's a lot of emotions condensed in a short period of time, there's fear, there's ego, there's greed, and I've got to tell you, with all those emotions, and particularly fear, there's always someone that wants to blame someone, and the real estate people are the perfect people to blame because they've always had the perception. They've always had the perception that they've done the wrong thing. However, the real reason why I think real estate agents are going to find it difficult to get rid of that label of being one of the lowest reputational occupations in Australia, or actually the world, is that there's a trust gap. There is a trust gap. And the trust gap largely is caused by the real estate agents themselves. Largely is caused by the real estate agents themselves. So if you think about it, when a real estate agent goes to a door of a house and the door opens, that real estate agent is already starting with a negative. Whereas if it was a doctor that was going on the door, they're starting with a significant positive. If it was a tradesperson knocking at the door, they would be at a significantly higher level than a real estate agent. So I suppose what I'm saying is the small cohort of real estate people that actually have got a good reputation are actually extraordinary people, because they've had to defy the baggage, the stigma that comes with our profession. So I'm going to finish off on this point. It's not easy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sticking up for all agents, but I also have to take into account that we have one fundamental issue that we live with in real estate, and that is that nearly every owner that wants to put their home on the market is wanting more money than what their home is worth. So real estate agents have to actually be spending their time not only trying to sell the property, but at the same time being a school teacher in many ways to that vendor, and trying to explain to them that what they're hoping to get and what they will get might not be the same number. In fact, I think RP data says that more than 75% of vendors that list their property will discount their property to be sold. You can see that in the data set. But one other thing I want to finish off before I leave here today is I had a real estate agent say to me this morning at an auction, I'm thinking about leaving my office. And I said to him, why is that? And he said, because I have a bad boss. And I said, okay. And I said, explain to me why you think your boss is bad. And let me tell you what he said. Number one, he micromanages me. Number two, he delays paying me my commissions. Number three, there is no training or mentoring. He said the only training I get is your real estate gym, which I pay the $650 a year, but I have no other training whatsoever, mentoring or coaching by my boss. The next thing is, my boss takes credit for my listings and sales. Now, I've got to say to you, if you've got a boss that micromanages you, stuffs you around with paying you your commissions, doesn't give you training or mentoring, and also wants to take credit or basically sort of suggest, and it's happened. I've sat there at an awards night a few years ago and a salesman got up there to get his award, number one, by the way, and then the principal sitting at the table says to me while he's going up to get the award, instead of saying, I'm so proud of my salesperson, he said to me, I'd be going up there if I hadn't given him all my property management leads. And I looked at the owner of the business. I said, man, you should be on cloud nine. You should be up there, taking a photo and with him and applauding him and saying, mate, fantastic. You're number one out of, 500 salespeople in this network. You're number one. But what you're doing is sort of saying you wish you were him. Listen, if you're a principal, don't be jealous of your people, right? Grow your people. If you're a principal, understand your job is now to list people, not just to list properties. Otherwise, don't be a principal. Go set up an EBU, you'll make more money. Now, they're the reasons he told me he wanted to leave, but I've got to run through some of the other bad qualities that I see bad bosses. And if you've got a bad boss that's got any of those qualities above, or in addition to that, plays favourites in the office, which is basically a toxic enabler, creates toxicity. If you've got someone that makes you feel guilty for taking a bit of time off, taking a few days off, right? That's bad. That's a bad boss. If you've got someone who publicly criticises people in the office and then gossips behind their backs, I'm letting you know you got a bad boss, and I would leave, because I've got to tell you, there's a lot of good bosses out there. And if you're sitting at home on a Sunday night thinking about, I've got to go to work and endure everything that I just talked about for the next week, I've got to tell you, get out of that office. Get out of there, and get out of there quickly. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm letting you know my Byron Bay Thrive event on the 23rd and the 24th of September is looking amazing, and so is Byron Bay. I am guaranteeing the 60 or so people that are going to be in that room, there's about 5 spots left. I've got to say to you, those people are going to get a recharge, a retreat. They're going to eat the best food, they're going to enjoy a beautiful ocean, and they're going to learn everything there is on models of real estate They're going to walk away as a black belt in AI, and they're also going to learn what is it that the top 1% are doing now to get lead generation, since cold calling is slowly diminishing due to the changing nature of the do not disturb privacy rules, and of course calls being screened on mobiles now and not being allowed to go through. So I've got to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Judge a boss by what they say, do not what they say. I like that. Anyway, team, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to go say goodbye to my last property. On a great day, 10 out of 10 sold. The market's good. Not expecting a rate cut this month. Am expecting another rate cut later on this year. And I'm letting you know there's a lot of people getting their loans organised.